The city was alive with noise, cars honking, people rushing, the usual chaos of everyday life. But in a dim alleyway, tucked between a busy restaurant and a convenience store, a young girl sat curled up against the cold. Her clothes were worn, her face tired, but her eyes held something rare, a quiet strength. She had been on the streets for months, surviving on scraps, avoiding danger, and hoping for a miracle. That miracle came in the form of a sleek black car that slowed down near the alley. The window rolled down, and a pair of sharp eyes studied her. The man inside was wealthy, his tailored suit, his polished shoes, the way he carried himself screamed power. But there was something else in his gaze, curiosity? Concern? He stepped out of the car, ignoring the glances from passers-by. "You hungry?" he asked, his voice calm. The girl hesitated. Kindness was rare in her world. But the gnawing pain in her stomach won. She nodded. The man didn't say much else. He opened the car door and waited. After a long moment, she gathered her few belongings and climbed in. The leather seats were soft, the warmth of the car almost unfamiliar. She expected him to drive her to a shelter, maybe give her some money and leave. But the car didn't stop at any charity. It rolled through tall iron gates, up a winding driveway, stopping in front of a mansion. Her breath caught. This wasn't just a rich man's house, it was a palace. Fountains, gardens, windows so tall they reflected the sky. "Come inside," he said. She followed, her heart pounding. The inside was even grander, marble floors, chandeliers, art on the walls that probably cost more than she could imagine. A maid approached, but the man waved her off. "Bring some food, please. Something warm." The girl sat at the dining table, her hands shaking. The man watched her carefully. "What's your name?" he asked. She swallowed. "Don't have one." He raised an eyebrow. "Everyone has a name." She looked down. "Not me. Not anymore." The man didn't push. Instead, he leaned back. "You're safe here. No one will hurt you." The food arrived, steaming soup, fresh bread, a glass of cold water. She ate like she hadn't in years, trying not to seem desperate. The man didn't eat. Just watched. When she finished, he finally spoke again. "I don't bring people here often. But something about you. I can't explain it." She didn't know what to say. Why her? Why now? He stood. "There's a room for you upstairs. Clean clothes, a shower, a bed. Tomorrow, we'll talk." She wanted to ask questions, but fear kept her silent. What did he want? Money? Something worse? As if reading her mind, he sighed. "I'm not what you think. Just rest." A maid led her upstairs. The room was bigger than any she'd ever seen. A real bed. A bathroom with fluffy towels. She locked the door behind her, half expecting it to be a trick. But hours passed, and no one came. Exhaustion took over. She sank into the bed, her mind racing. Who was this man? Why did he help her? And most importantly, what would happen next? The girl woke up with a start, her body stiff from the unfamiliar softness of the bed. For a moment, she forgot where she was, then the memories rushed back. The alley. The black car. The mansion. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, painting golden stripes on the floor. She sat up, half expecting the room to disappear, for this to be some cruel dream. But no, the bed was real, the silence of the house was real. A soft knock at the door made her tense. "Good morning," a woman's voice called gently. "I've left fresh clothes outside for you. Breakfast will be ready when you come down." The girl waited until the footsteps faded before opening the door. A neatly folded stack of clothes sat there, simple but clean. A t-shirt, jeans, a hoodie. No fancy dresses, nothing that would make her uncomfortable. Whoever this man was, he paid attention. She showered, the hot water washing away months of grime and exhaustion. The soap smelled like lavender, something she hadn't felt against her skin in years. When she stepped out, she stared at herself in the mirror. Her face was thinner than she remembered, her eyes older. But for the first time in a long time, she didn't look afraid. Dressed in the new clothes, she hesitated before leaving the room. What was waiting for her downstairs? Would the man expect something in return? Would he change his mind and throw her out? Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the hallway. The house was even grander in daylight, high ceilings, sunlight bouncing off polished wood, the faint scent of coffee in the air. She followed the sound of quiet voices to the dining room. The man sat at the table, reading a newspaper. He looked up when she entered and gave a small nod. "You slept well?" She nodded, unsure what to say. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Eat." The table was covered in food, eggs, toast, fruit, juice. Her stomach growled, but she forced herself to take small bites, not wanting to seem greedy. The man watched her for a moment before speaking. "You don't trust me. That's smart." She paused, meeting his eyes. "Why am I here?" He folded the newspaper and set it aside. "Because I was like you once." That surprised her. This man, with his expensive watch and his mansion, had been on the streets? He continued, his voice low. "A long time ago, I had nothing. Someone helped me. Gave me a chance. I've been looking for years to do the same for someone else." The girl frowned. "But why me? There are hundreds of people out there." The man leaned back, studying her. "Because when I saw you, I saw something different. You weren't begging. You weren't high. You were just surviving. And I could tell, you're smarter than you let on." She didn't know how to respond. Was this a test? Before she could ask, the man stood. "I have work to do. The house is yours for the day. Explore if you want. Rest. Whatever you need." He walked out, leaving her alone with her thoughts. The rest of the morning passed in a daze. She wandered the house cautiously, half expecting someone to stop her. But the staff barely glanced her way, as if a homeless girl in a millionaire's home was completely normal. She found a library, walls lined with books, a ladder to reach the highest shelves. Her fingers brushed the spines, remembering how much she used to love reading before life got in the way. Then, something caught her eye. A photo on the desk. It was the man, younger, standing beside an older woman. Both were smiling, but there was something sad in their eyes. Behind them was a small, run-down house, nothing like this mansion. She picked it up, curiosity burning. Who was this woman? His mother? And why did they look so poor? A voice behind her made her jump. "That was my sister." She turned to see the man standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable. She quickly set the photo down. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "It's fine," he said, walking closer. "She died years ago. Overdosed on the streets." The girl froze. So that was it. That was why he helped her. The man picked up the photo, his thumb brushing over the woman's face. "I couldn't save her. But maybe I can save you." The weight of his words settled over her. This wasn't just kindness. This was guilt. This was a second chance. And suddenly, she realized, she wasn't just a charity case to him. She was a promise. The girl stared at the photo in the man's hands, the pieces clicking together in her mind. This wasn't just about helping a stranger, it was something deeper, something raw. She wanted to ask more, but the look in his eyes told her now wasn't the time. He placed the picture back on the desk and turned to her. Hungry again? His tone was lighter now, as if pushing the heavy moment aside. She nodded, though her mind was still racing. They walked back to the kitchen, where the staff had prepared lunch, sandwiches, soup, a plate of cookies that smelled like cinnamon. She ate quietly, stealing glances at the man as he checked his phone, his brow furrowed in thought. After a while, he set the phone down and looked at her. You're wondering what happens next? She wiped her hands on a napkin. Yeah. I mean, you can't just let me live here forever. True, he said. But I don't plan on kicking you out either. He leaned forward. Here's the deal. You stay. You let me help you, not just with food and a bed, but with your life. School, work, whatever you need to get back on your feet. Her fingers tightened around her glass. Why? Because everyone deserves a shot. His voice was firm. And because I think you'd actually take it seriously. She looked down, her throat tight. For months, survival had meant stealing, hiding, begging. The idea of something normal, school, a job, felt impossible. What if I mess up? She whispered. He shrugged. Then you mess up. But you'll have a safety net this time. Something about the way he said it made her chest ache. No one had ever spoken to her like that, like she was worth the risk. She took a shaky breath. Okay. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Good. First things first, we'll get you some proper ID, enroll you in classes. You'll have rules here, but nothing crazy. Just don't lie, don't steal, and don't disappear without telling me. She almost laughed. After life on the streets, those rules sounded easy. That evening, a woman arrived, sharp-eyed, carrying a briefcase. This is my lawyer, the man explained. She'll help sort out your paperwork. The girl tensed. Lawyers meant questions, documents, her past, things she'd spent years running from. The lawyer noticed her hesitation. It's okay, she said gently. We'll take it slow. For the next hour, they worked through the basics, her name, or the one she decided to give, her age, as best as she remembered, the vague details of how she'd ended up on the streets. The man stayed quiet, letting her answer in her own time. When they finished, the lawyer handed her a small stack of papers. This will get you a state ID. Once we have that, we can talk about school options. The girl stared at the forms, her hands trembling. For the first time in years, she existed on paper again. That night, she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The house was silent except for the hum of the air conditioner. She should have been relieved. Instead, fear gnawed at her. What if she failed? What if this was all a mistake? A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. The man stood in the doorway, holding a small box. Figured you might want these, he said, handing it to her. Inside were a cheap phone and a set of keys. The phone's got my number already in it, he said. The keys are for the house. No curfew, but text me if you're out late. She clutched the box, her eyes burning. No one had ever trusted her with anything. He turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded bill, a 50. For emergencies. Don't waste it. She opened her mouth to refuse, but he was already walking away. The door clicked shut behind him. She sat there, the money in one hand, the keys in the other, and for the first time in as long as she could remember. She let herself cry. The girl woke up early the next morning, the unfamiliar weight of the house keys still in her pocket. She rolled them between her fingers, listening to the quiet jingle. Freedom. A real kind, not the desperate, survival-driven freedom of the streets, but something steadier. Something with a safety net. She dressed quickly, the new clothes still feeling strange against her skin. Downstairs, the kitchen was empty except for a note on the counter. Gone to the office. Food in fridge. Be back by 6. Don't burn the house down. She smirked. The man had a dry sense of humor. After breakfast, she wandered outside for the first time since arriving. The backyard was massive, manicured grass, a swimming pool glinting in the sunlight, tall trees swaying in the breeze. It felt like another world. She pulled out the phone he'd given her, turning it over in her hands. It was basic, but it worked. She typed out a message, deleted it, then tried again. Thanks. For everything. She hit send before she could overthink it. The reply came seconds later, don't mention it. Literally. I have a reputation to uphold. She laughed, tucking the phone away. That afternoon, she decided to test her new freedom. The man had said no curfew, but she wasn't ready to push it. Just a short walk, out the front gate, down the block, maybe to the convenience store she'd passed in his car. The air outside the mansion walls felt different. Lighter. She kept her head up, her hands out of her pockets, trying to look like she belonged. No more slouching, no more quick glances over her shoulder. The store clerk barely looked at her when she entered. She bought a soda with the change she'd found in the jacket the man had given her, savoring the normalcy of it. Then she saw him. A figure across the street, leaning against a lamppost. Tall, lanky, a familiar jagged scar running down his forearm. Danny. Her blood ran cold. Danny had been part of the loose group of street kids she'd run with last winter, before things went bad. Before the fights, the stolen money, the night she'd barely gotten away. She ducked behind a shelf, heart pounding. Had he seen her? A quick glance through the store window confirmed the worst. He was staring right at her, a slow grin spreading across his face. She bolted out the back door, soda forgotten. The alley behind the store was cramped, cluttered with dumpsters and broken crates. She could hear footsteps behind her, fast, getting closer. Hey! Wait up! Danny's voice, sharp with laughter. Damn, I thought that was you. Fancy new clothes, huh? She didn't stop. He grabbed her arm, spinning her around. What, too good to talk to me now? His grip was tight, his breath sour. Where'd you get that hoodie? Some rich guy pick you up? She yanked free. Back off. His smile faded. Or what? You gonna call your new boyfriend? He stepped closer. You owe me, remember? That $40 you took. I didn't take anything. Funny, 'cause it went missing right after you did. His eyes flicked over her shoulder, toward the mansion's direction. Bet your new sugar daddy wouldn't like knowing who you really are. Her stomach twisted. She had no doubt Danny would make up lies just to ruin this for her. She shoved past him. Leave me alone. He let her go, but his voice followed her down the alley. This ain't over. She ran most of the way back, only slowing when the mansion gates came into view. Her hands shook as she fumbled with the keys. Inside, the house was still empty. She locked the door behind her, sinking to the floor. What had she done? Danny wasn't just a nuisance, he was dangerous. If he told the man lies about her, if he showed up here. Her phone buzzed. A text from the man, dinner at 7. You pick, pizza or Chinese? She stared at the screen, guilt gnawing at her. He'd given her trust, and within a day, she'd already dragged his kindness into her mess. But telling him meant explaining everything, the fights, the stealing, the parts of her life she wanted to forget. Would he still look at her the same way? She typed, erased, then finally sent, Chinese. Extra dumplings. No reply. She curled up on the couch, exhaustion pulling at her. The fear from the alley still clung to her skin. She must have dozed off, because the next thing she knew, the front door was opening. The man walked in, carrying 2 large bags of food. He took one look at her and froze. What happened? She sat up too fast. Nothing. I'm fine. He set the food down, his gaze sharp. Try again. She opened her mouth, then closed it. The words stuck in her throat. He waited. Patient. Unmoving. Finally, she whispered, I saw someone from before. He's not a good person. The man's expression darkened. Did he hurt you? No. But he knows where I am now. She swallowed. He might come here. For a long moment, the man said nothing. Then he pulled out his phone and dialed a number. Hey, it's me. Yeah. Need a favor. He walked into the other room, his voice too low to hear. The girl hugged her knees to her chest. Was he calling the police? Security? Was this where it ended? When he came back, his face was calm. Sorted. She blinked. What? He won't bother you again. The man handed her a container of dumplings. Eat. Then we'll talk. She wanted to ask what he meant, how he could possibly guarantee that. But the certainty in his voice left no room for doubt. Danny was handled. Just like that. The dumplings sat untouched in front of her. The man's words echoed in her mind, he won't bother you again. Not, I'll take care of it, not, we'll figure it out. Just absolute certainty. She studied him as he poured tea, his movements precise. Who was this man? You're not going to ask, she finally said. He glanced up. Ask what? About Danny. What happened before? What I did. He set the teapot down. You'll tell me when you're ready. She picked at the edge of the food container. What if I never am? Then I'll never ask. The simplicity of it stunned her. No demands. No conditions. Just trust. The silence stretched between them until he nudged the dumplings closer. Eat. They're getting cold. That night, sleep wouldn't come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Danny's sneer, heard his threat. Bet your new sugar daddy wouldn't like knowing who you really are. She rolled out of bed and paced the room. The mansion was eerily quiet at night, no sirens, no shouting, just the occasional creak of old wood settling. Her bare feet carried her down the hallway, past closed doors. Then she saw it. A door she hadn't noticed before. Slightly ajar. Light spilling through the crack. She hesitated. The man had given her freedom to explore, but this felt different. This felt private. A soft sound came from inside, paper rustling. She took a step closer. The floorboard creaked. The noise inside stopped abruptly. She froze. Then. Come in. The man's voice. Not angry. Not even surprised. Her heart pounded as she pushed the door open. The room was unlike any other in the house. No luxury here. Just a battered metal desk, stacks of file boxes, and walls covered in photos and newspaper clippings. A single lamp cast long shadows. The man sat at the desk, a file open in front of him. He didn't look up. Couldn't sleep? She hovered in the doorway. I didn't mean to. It's fine. He closed the file. Since you're here, you might as well see. She stepped inside, her eyes darting across the walls. The photos showed faces, dozens of them. Young people. Some smiling, some serious. All with dates written beneath. Who are they? She whispered. Same as you. He leaned back in his chair. Kids I've pulled off the streets over the years. She moved closer, studying the faces. A boy with a scar across his cheek. A girl with bright pink hair. A pair of twins. Where are they now? Most? Living their lives. He pointed to one photo. Accountant in Chicago. Another. Nurse in Denver. His finger paused on a third. Marine. Died in Afghanistan 2 years ago. Her throat tightened. You keep track of all of them? He nodded toward the file boxes. Every one. She turned slowly, taking it all in. This wasn't just a rich man's charity project. This was his life's work. Then she saw it. On the far wall, separate from the others, a single framed photo of the woman from before. His sister. Beneath it, a small shelf with a candle, a faded hair ribbon, and a syringe in a clear plastic bag. The man followed her gaze. His jaw tightened. She didn't ask. She already knew. The silence stretched until he cleared his throat. You met Danny today. She nodded. He opened a drawer and pulled out another file. Inside was a photo, Danny's mugshot. Daniel Reyes. 23. 5 arrests, 2 convictions. Currently on parole. He flipped a page. Violent tendencies. Drug runner. Not someone you want knowing where you live. She swallowed hard. How did you? I made calls. He closed the file. He won't come near you again. But how can you be sure? For the first time, something dangerous flickered in his eyes. Because the people I called aren't cops. The implication hung in the air between them. She should have been scared. Instead, she felt safe. He stood suddenly, as if shaking off the moment. You should get some sleep. Tomorrow's a big day. She blinked. It is? First day of school. He herded her gently toward the door. Well, placement testing first. Then school. She stopped in the hallway, turning back. Why do you do this? He paused, his hand on the doorknob. Because no one did it for her. The door clicked shut between them. Back in her room, she stared at the ceiling. The man's secret office, the files, the way he'd said aren't cops, it should have terrified her. But all she could think about was that syringe in its plastic bag. And the fact that for the first time in years, someone was fighting for her. The girl sat stiffly in the passenger seat of the man's car, clutching the strap of her brand new backpack. The placement testing center loomed ahead, a bland brick building that might as well have been a prison. You're grinding your teeth, the man said without looking from the road. She forced her jaw to unclench. What if I fail? Then we'll know what level you're at. He parallel parked with smooth precision. That's the point. She stared at the testing center doors. Kids streamed in, some laughing, some nervous looking, all clearly knowing exactly where to go. Her stomach twisted. The man killed the engine. Look at me. She turned. His gaze was steady. However this goes, we'll handle it. Got it? She nodded, not trusting her voice. The test was worse than she'd imagined. Fractions. Essay prompts. Historical dates that swam before her eyes. The last time she'd been in school was, she couldn't even remember. She chewed her pencil, staring at a math problem. If a train leaves Chicago at 3 p.m. traveling 60 miles per hour. What did it matter? She'd never been on a train. Never been to Chicago. Her whole life had been alleyways and bus stops and the back seats of strangers' cars. The clock ticked. She filled in bubbles at random. When she stumbled out 2 hours later, the man was leaning against the car, talking on the phone. His voice carried in the quiet parking lot. Told you, no more shipments until the heat dies down. A pause. I don't care what Rossi promised. We stick to the plan. He spotted her and abruptly hung up. How'd it go? She shrugged, her eyes darting to his phone. Shipments? Rossi? He pocketed the device and opened her door. Let's get lunch. The diner was nearly empty at midday. They slid into a cracked vinyl booth, the smell of grease and coffee thick in the air. The man didn't mention the phone call. Instead, he pushed a menu toward her. Order whatever you. Who's Rossi? His fingers stilled on the laminated menu. Not your concern. You're not just some rich guy helping strays, are you? She kept her voice low. Those files, the way you handled Danny, those phone calls. The waitress appeared, chewing gum. Y'all ready? The man didn't break eye contact. Burger. Rare. Coffee black. The waitress turned to her. Same, she muttered. When they were alone again, the man leaned forward. You're right. I'm not just some do-gooder. His voice dropped. But you already knew that. Her pulse jumped. I have connections, he continued. People who can make problems disappear. Resources most don't. He traced a watermark on the table. That life got my sister killed. Now I use it to keep kids like you alive. The waitress returned with their coffees. They sat in silence until she left. So what? The girl whispered. You're like a mob boss? A faint smile. More like a retired consultant. And the testing center? School? That's just, what? Cover? His expression hardened. It's the point. The life I came from only destroys. What I'm building? That lasts. He took a sip of coffee. You want out? Say the word. I'll drop you anywhere you want with cash in your pocket. The offer hung between them. She thought of the syringe in his office. The photos of all those kids. The way he'd said we'll handle it like it was that simple. The waitress brought their burgers. She picked up a fry. I'll stay. They were halfway back to the mansion when the man's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and stiffened. Change of plans. He made a sharp turn. We're making a stop. Where? Somewhere safe. The car wound through increasingly rough neighborhoods until they reached a boarded-up laundromat. The man parked around back and turned to her. Stay in the car. Doors locked. She gripped her seatbelt. What's happening? Just a conversation. He pulled a small handgun from the glove compartment and tucked it into his waistband. 5 minutes. Her breath caught. You said you were retired. Retired, he agreed, getting out. Not stupid. She watched through the windshield as he knocked on a rusted metal door. It opened just enough for someone to look out, then swung wide. The clock on the dashboard ticked. 1 minute. 2. At 3 minutes 47 seconds, gunshots rang out. She ducked instinctively, heart hammering. The metal door burst open. The man stumbled out, blood on his shirt. Not his, she realized. Someone else's. He slid into the driver's seat, face pale but calm. We're done here. The car peeled away. She twisted in her seat. Are you? Not my blood. Who was? Rossi's problem. He merged onto the highway, hands steady on the wheel. Not anymore. She stared at him, really stared. At the flecks of blood on his collar. At the way his jaw worked. At the gun now resting on his lap. This wasn't just some dark past. It was his present. And now it was hers too. The mansion's gates closed behind them with an ominous hum. The girl sat frozen in the passenger seat, her fingers digging into the armrest. Blood still speckled the man's collar, dark against the white cotton. He killed the engine and turned to her. His voice was eerily calm. "You have questions." She swallowed hard. "You shot someone." "Did I?" "You're covered in blood." He examined his sleeve like he'd just noticed. "This? Could be ketchup." She gaped at him. Was he joking? Testing her? The man sighed and got out of the car. "Come inside. We'll talk." The kitchen lights were too bright. The girl perched on a stool, watching as the man methodically washed his hands at the sink. The water ran pink. He dried his hands and turned, leaning against the counter. "Rossi's dead." She flinched. "Not by me," he continued. "His own people. They've been wanting to move against him for months. I just facilitated the meeting." She shook her head. "Why tell me this?" "Because you deserve the truth." He opened the fridge and pulled out 2 sodas. "And because you need to decide if you can live with it." The cold compressed into her palm. She didn't open it. "You said you were retired," she whispered. "I am. Mostly." He took a long drink. "But in my world, retirement doesn't mean golf courses. It means favors owed. Information traded. Occasional interventions." She thought of the files in his office. The way Danny had disappeared so easily. "All those kids you helped, was that just to clean up your conscience?" His grip tightened on the soda can. "At first? Maybe." He met her eyes. But somewhere along the way, it became the only thing that mattered. A car door slammed outside. The man went still. Then he was moving, grabbing her arm, pulling her toward the back hall. "Go to the safe room. Now." "What's?" "Third door on the left behind the bookcase. Code 0914. He pressed a small object into her hand, the gun from the car. "Don't come out until I say." Her throat closed up. "But." Another car door. Closer this time. He gave her a gentle push. "Go." The safe room was smaller than she expected, just a closet-sized space with a monitor bank, a chair, and a landline phone. The door clicked shut behind her, sealing with a hiss of pressure. The monitors flickered to life, showing camera feeds from around the property. 4 men approached the front gate. All armed. Her hands shook as she fumbled with the gun. She'd never fired one before. Never even held one. On the screen, the man walked calmly to the gate. He wasn't armed. Wasn't running. Just talking. One of the intruders gestured angrily. Another pulled a pistol. She held her breath. Then. The man nodded and opened the gate. The safe room door beeped 23 minutes later. "Come on out," his voice called. "It's handled." She emerged to find him alone in the study, pouring 2 glasses of whiskey. "They're gone," she whispered. "For now." He handed her a glass. She didn't drink. What did they want? Rossi's ledger. "They think I have it." He downed his whiskey in one swallow. "I don't. But, you could get it." He studied her. "Yes." She set her untouched glass down. "Are we in danger?" "Not tonight." "Tomorrow?" He didn't answer. She took a shaky breath. "Tell me what to do." For the first time since she'd met him, the man looked tired. "Old. There's a safe house upstate. I can have you there by morning." "And you?" "I have business to finish." She understood then. He was giving her an out. A clean escape from whatever storm was coming. The gun still sat heavy in her hoodie pocket. She thought of all those photos in his office. The sister he couldn't save. The kids he had. "Show me," she said. His eyebrows lifted. "Show me how to use this." She pulled out the gun. "Just in case." For the first time in days, the man smiled. The basement firing range was hidden behind a false wall. The man stood behind her, adjusting her grip on the pistol. "Safety off. Finger straight until you're ready to shoot." His breath was warm on her ear. "And breathe out when you pull the trigger." The recoil nearly knocked her off her feet. The bullet went wide, pinging off the back wall. He chuckled. Again. By the 5th shot, she was hitting the silhouette's shoulder. By the 10th, its heart. The man squeezed her shoulder. "Good. Now reload." Shell casing scattered at their feet as the reality sank in. She wasn't running. She was preparing to fight. The pre-dawn light painted the mansion's halls in shades of gray. The girl sat at the kitchen island, methodically cleaning the pistol as the man had taught her. The metal was cold under her fingers, the smell of gun oil sharp in her nose. The man entered, dressed all in black. He took one look at her, still wearing yesterday's clothes, dark circles under her eyes, and sighed. "You should sleep." She snapped the magazine back into place. "Where are we going?" "We?" He filled a travel thermos with coffee. "You're staying here. Security's coming at." "I'm not hiding." She stood, tucking the gun into her waistband like she'd seen him do. "You said it yourself, I learn fast." Their eyes locked in a silent battle. Finally, he exhaled. "It's not just Rossi's men we're dealing with. There's a cop on the payroll. Detective Cole." He pulled a photo from his pocket and slid it across the counter, a middle-aged man with a salt and pepper mustache. "He finds you with me? You'll spend more time in juvie than school." She picked up the photo. "Why tell me this?" "Because if you're determined to be stupid," he said, grabbing his keys, "you should know exactly what you're walking into."